All right, let's jump right into this explainer because today we are finally decoding those chaotic, middle of the night feline track meets right in your living room. You know exactly the ones I'm talking about. 1 minute your house is dead silent, and the next, your cat is literally ricocheting off the furniture like a furry pinball. It's a completely universal experience for cat parents, but let me tell you, the science behind it is absolutely mind-blowing. If you've ever buried your head under a pillow while your cat, I don't know, knocks everything off your shelves at 3 a.m., you'd be totally forgiven for thinking they're just acting crazy, or maybe even doing it out of pure spite. But there is actually a deeply fascinating biological reason behind this behavior. As we're going to see, they aren't losing their minds at all. They are actually executing a complex, ancient sequence of instincts that just happens to collide with your sleep schedule. So the scientific community actually has an official technical name for the Zoomies. They call these explosive moments FRAPs, which stands for frenetic random activity periods. And look, while it seems completely out of control, it's a 100% natural way for your cat to release pent-up energy. It's this sudden discharge of tension, a pure expression of playfulness, and honestly, it's absolutely crucial for their mental and physical health. But to really get why this happens specifically in the dead of night, we've got to look to the past. Section 1. Ancient Code, Modern Cats. Uncovering the Biological Reality. Let's look at how your cat's ancient biology is crashing into the completely artificial environment of your modern home. Here's the kicker. Your cat isn't actually a nocturnal. Seriously, that's a massive misconception. In reality, cats are what we call crepuscular. That just means their bodies are biologically hardwired to hit peak hunting performance at dawn and dusk. But think about it. When a cat lives indoors where the lights are always on, the temperature never shifts, and food magically appears on a strict schedule, their internal clock totally loses its anchor. Without the fading sun to guide them, that ancient predatory software just pushes their peak activity window into whatever quiet hour it can find. And yeah, that's usually when you're fast asleep. Now, what's truly mind-blowing here is the sheer scale of their sensory perception. When the house goes dark and quiet, a cat's hearing reaches an astounding 65,000 hertz. To put that into perspective for you, our human hearing tops out at a ceiling of just 20,000. So, while you are hearing absolute silence at 2 a.m., your cat is listening to a full-blown symphony. The settling pipes, the hum of the fridge, maybe a tiny moth fluttering behind a curtain, it's all registering for them with crystal clear precision. And get this, they aren't just hearing more, they're seeing way more. Cats have this incredible thing called the tapetum lucidum. It's a brilliant layer of reflective cells right behind the retina. It literally grabs every available photon of light and bounces it back through the eye a second time, effectively doubling their light processing. Combine that incredible night vision with 65,000 hertz hearing, and suddenly, the dark isn't a time of rest for them at all. It's this vividly stimulating playground where their senses are fully awake. Moving right along to Section 2, the interrupted hunting loop, the buildup of predatory energy. This perfectly explains what those Zoomies actually represent physically. You see, cats are hardwired for a very specific neurological loop. Locate, stalk, chase, pounce, catch, and eat. And this isn't just physical action, right? It's a profound chemical sequence. Every single step of this hunt releases a carefully timed cocktail of neurochemicals in their little brains. But inside a house, where there are no real mice to chase and no vast territory to patrol, this natural sequence almost never gets completed. I absolutely love this insight because it perfectly captures the internal pressure your cat is dealing with. The dopamine doesn't just all arrive at the end. It builds progressively. The stalk generates anticipation, the chase generates intensity, and the catch brings satisfaction. But when there's no actual prey to stalk or catch, all that dopamine and nervous tension just accumulates. Imagine hour after hour of lounging on the sofa. That energy is building up with nowhere to go. Eventually, the system has to vent, and it does it the only way it knows how, an explosive 3 a.m. sprint skidding right across your hardwood floors. It's a hunt that never happened, just playing out in super compressed form. All right, Section 3, Hidden Messages and Red Flags. What your cat's Zoomies are trying to tell you. Because unspent energy isn't the only trigger here. We need to decode these hidden signals. For instance, have you ever noticed your cat bolting out of the litter box at literal top speed? Animal behaviorists actually call this poophoria. I'm serious, it happens because a large bowel movement stimulates the vagus nerve, causing this sudden, joyful drop in heart rate and blood pressure. It's a literal wave of physiological relief that just makes them want to run. But quick side note, if that sprint seems panicked rather than joyful, keep a close eye on it as it could signal some discomfort. Also, really pay attention to where the zoomies end. If your cat finishes their midnight sprint right by your feet or hops up on the bed and just stares at you, they aren't just being weird. They're actually extending a social invitation to play. In the wild, cats often hunt and play together. If you just pull the covers over your head and ignore them night after night, that unmet social energy can easily morph into frustration, which leads to things like excessive meowing or overgrooming. And this brings us to a crucial point. When should you actually call the vets? Look, while zoomies are almost always perfectly normal, frequent, intense nighttime pacing, especially in senior cats, can be a red flag. For instance, if your older cat is restless, has a voracious appetite, but is losing weight, that points heavily toward hyperthyroidism. If you see visible skin rippling and sudden wild tail attacking, that could be feline hyperesthesia, which is completely treatable, by the way. And for our super seniors, cats over 15, nighttime wandering and confusion might be cognitive dysfunction, essentially feline dementia. So always watch for the context. Section 4. Helping your tiny predator. Actionable steps to sync your lifestyles. Let's figure out how we actually fix this midnight madness. Assuming your furry friend is perfectly healthy, yelling definitely doesn't work, and chasing them just volunteers you as the prey. So what do? Well, the solution we have is honestly shockingly effective. A major study from the Waltham Center for Pet Nutrition found a massive 40% reduction in nighttime activity disruptions. Think about that. Almost half the disruptions just gone. How did they do it? Simply by adding at least 2 interactive play sessions to a cat's daily routine. It really all comes down to managing the timing of their stimulation. By following a specific evening routine, you can completely sync their biology with your sleep schedule. It goes like this. Start in the early evening with a structured play session using a wand toy to really mimic that stalk and chase. Then, about 30 minutes before bed, wind down the play and let them successfully catch the toy. And here is the absolute magic key. Feed them their main meal 2 to 3 hours before bed. This hunt, catch, and eat cycle beautifully mirrors nature. It triggers the exact neurochemical satisfaction their brain so desperately needs, telling their body it's time to settle into a deep, restful sleep. You can also make a huge difference by enriching their daytime environment. Let's give their brilliant little brains something to do while you're out at work. Add cat trees and perches so they have vertical space to explore. Toss in some puzzle feeders so they actually have to hunt for their kibble. Even throwing a few cardboard boxes or tunnels around gives them great hiding spots for stress relief. Oh, and here's a pro tip. Try blocking out the lower views of your windows. It prevents that massive territorial frustration they get when they see neighborhood cats wandering around outside. Just throwing in small, 5-minute bursts of play throughout the day can bleed off all that predatory tension before it explodes at midnight. Ultimately, the very next time your cat takes off like an absolute rocket at midnight, I want you to ask yourself, is your cat just a pet or an ancient sleeping hunter choosing to rest beside you? Domesticated life is a profound sensory compression for them. The territory is tiny, the prey is gone, but the biology? It is completely unchanged. So when you see those zoomies, remember, you aren't just looking at a misbehaving pet. You're witnessing a magnificent ancient predator trying to navigate a modern world. They're running software that hasn't changed in thousands of years. So isn't it incredible that a creature so wild at heart still chooses to curl up and share its life with you?